After some time passed, the Cube cadets finally successfully completed all the written exams. Kim Soo-hyuk then announced, with this last test, the written exam officially ended. After praising their work, he then invited them to leave. They were very happy to hear that. After leaving the class, Hajin then went to the vending machine to buy a drink, but someone suddenly called him at this time. Hearing that, Hajin then turned to the person. The person turned out to be Nayun. She asked, "What will you do after the exam ends?" Hajin was a little confused by her question. He then replied, "Of course I will prepare for the practical exam." Nayun was surprised to hear that he was already going to prepare for it even though there was still one more week. No wonder he became a top student. Nayun then remembered something. She said that she wanted to return something. Hajin was then confused to hear that, while giving a book to him. Nayun then thanked him for lending it to her. The book seemed to be a kind of summary notes that Nayun asked him a few days ago. Nayun happily thanked him once again. She thought he would leave without giving it to her. Hearing that, Hajin then smiled apologetically. He said that he was in a hurry at that time. Nayun didn't mind that. The important thing was that he had lent it to her. His summary notes were very useful to her. He was really good at capturing the key points. Hajin laughed awkwardly at that. These are actually notes that he got by hacking Yona's personal database, but Hajin certainly wouldn't tell that to her. Nayun continued, "To show my gratitude, I will treat you, after the practical exam, how about we go there?" Hearing that, Hajin then confusedly asked, "Where?" Nayun answered, "How about Hanyung Pavilion?" She said that she would take Kim Soho too. Hajin was surprised to hear the name of the place. He wondered, did she mean the super luxurious Korean restaurant that's in Gangwon-do? That Hanyung Pavilion? Hajin drooled just imagining the menus there, but Hajin said that he wouldn't come. Nayun was then surprised to hear that. She then asked, why, although Hajin really wanted to come and taste the dishes there, but he also had to prepare for that incident, which would happen after the practical exams. He then said that he was busy. If she really wanted to go there, he then told her to go with Soho. Nayun was shocked to hear that. With a blushing face, she then asked, "Are you being jealous right now?" Hajin was then shocked to hear that. He even splashed his drink. While looking at her, Hajin then asked, "What nonsense is that?" Nayun blushingly replied, "Never mind." She told him to forget about it if it's not the case. Nayun said that she was just trying to pay him back for what had happened at the restaurant in Paris. Hajin said it's fine. He wasn't too interested. Nayun couldn't believe it. She then asked him, "How about I buy you the full package?" But Hajin kept walking away as if he didn't hear her words. Seeing that, Nayun then tried to call him. She was still surprised by Hajin's words just now. She seemed to misunderstand this time. She felt that they couldn't go with just the two of them. On his way to the dormitory, Hajin wondered, should I buy Evangel a snack? But he was then surprised when he heard a conversation from someone nearby. It was a voice that was quite familiar to him. Hajin then walked over to check. The person turned out to be Tomer. She seemed to be asking someone on the phone for a down payment, but the person seemed to disagree with her request. It was because the person felt that she was incompetent in her mission. The thing she said would be completed within 2 weeks, but in fact it had not been completed for months. Tomer didn't know how to answer. Hearing that, the person on the phone continued to scold her. He scolded her for losing the items that the team leader sent to her. Tomer didn't argue. She then apologized to him. Hajin chuckled at that. He was the one who took it. Tomer then said that she really needed the money. She asked for a waiver just this one time, but the person on the phone then scolded her harshly. He felt that Tomer still didn't understand the situation. He told her to immediately complete her current mission and then come back. After saying that, he then hung up the phone. Tomer could only sigh helplessly at that. She felt that nothing had gone smoothly since she was here, but, as she was about to walk away, she was then surprised when she saw someone in front of her. Seeing Hajin in front of her, she wondered, how long has this person been here? Did he eavesdrop on my conversation? But Tomer wasn't too worried about that. After all, she didn't mention Jin at all in the conversation. She then told the Hajin who was blocking her way to move aside, and walked away from there. But Tomer then turned back to him when she heard Hajin offering to lend money. Her attitude really changed drastically from her previous cold attitude. Tomer also realized that. She felt a little embarrassed about it. While pretending to be calm, Tomer then asked him, "Did you hear that? Forget it, you don't even know how much I need." Hearing that, Hajin then asked her, "You are a mage, right? Mages can find money easily if they want. Just make an IOU, and I will lend you money." Tomer smiled dismissively hearing that. She felt that Hajin was not able to offer a lone amount of what she needed. Seeing that, Hajin then took out something from his pants pocket. He said that his appearance might be ordinary, but he had quite a lot of money. Time passed, we finally arrived when the practical exam finally began. In the duel arena number 2, the first practical exam, team battle, was being held there at this time. The rules were similar to the individual duel in the last semester, the only difference was that this was a team match, on the first day. In the first match, Rachel's team became the attack team, while the team that became the defense team was Yohei's team. After Hajin and his team were in the arena and observed the surrounding terrain, he saw many obstacles there. This is a fairly favorable terrain for people like him. Rachel as the team leader then gave orders to them, me and Jin Ho-sung will be the front, the rest will slowly follow and provide assistance. After saying that, she then invited them to move now, but she was then surprised when she saw Hajin suddenly jumped up and perched on a tree. Seeing that, Rachel then confusedly called him, while smiling broadly at her. Hajin then told her to go ahead, he would cover from above. Hearing that, Rachel immediately knew what Hajin wanted to do. He planned to secure the high ground. Rachel then said she would leave that to him. After that, Rachel's group then began to move. Hajin followed his team's movements by jumping from tree to tree. With a higher position than the others made him able to observe the surrounding area more clearly, but he was then surprised when he felt something darting towards his team. Realizing that, Hajin then immediately aimed his gun towards the arrow that shot. His shot managed to split the arrow into two and managed to stop its progress. Hajin then jumped to a nearby tree and looked at his surroundings vigilantly. He realized the fact that there was a sharpshooter meant that there were most likely other team members nearby. Among them, the most likely person to be at the front was. Hajin then confusedly looked at the person was certainly Yohei. Hajin's confusion was very natural, because Yohei was acting very relaxed at this time. Hajin really didn't know what he was thinking. Seeing that, he wondered, what was wrong with him. Even with a sharpshooter nearby, wasn't he too open? And plus, Yohei's current opponent was, but Yohei didn't seem at all worried about it. While lying under the tree, he then hummed a song. The Wanderer, he who wandered freely, like the wind. And when Rachel finally arrived in front of him and slashed her rapier at him, Yohei then quickly reacted, and blocked her slash. Hajin was surprised to see Yohei was able to parry Rachel's slash, but Rachel wasn't alone this time. Ho-sung then called out to her. Hearing that, Rachel immediately moved out of the way, allowing Ho-sung to land a surprise attack on Yohei. The impact of the three of them clashing was devastating. Hajin was surprised at how intense the fight was, but what surprised him even more was that even with Rachel and Jin Ho-sung attacking together, they still couldn't defeat him. Hajin was confused and shocked at that fact. He wondered if Yohei had always been this strong. Not only Hajin, Ho-sung himself was also surprised to see Yohei being able to match him and Rachel. He wondered, is this some kind of magic buff? Hajin also thought so. He thought he knew their formation now. Yohei dispels enemies at the front, and sharpshooter helps with shots from the middle, and at the very back, the mage gives all the magic and mana buffs to Yohei. Then the warrior and support protect the mage like an iron wall. This is the classic one-man team Yohei strategy. Although this is a basic strategy, but even Hajin admits that this is a pretty good formation for the defensive team. But he certainly knew how to counter this formation. He just needed to target their mage. After thinking about that, Hajin then immediately jumped from one tree to another to look for the whereabouts of Yohei's group mage. After a while, he finally found them, and as he thought, the mage was indeed being heavily guarded now. And while Hajin was observing them secretly, the warrior seemed to realize his existence. He then immediately told his teammates, especially the sharpshooter, where Hajin was. Hajin was surprised to see that, while avoiding the attacks thrown at him, he wondered, is my infiltration talent that bad? The warrior was quite confused when he saw him. He was confused what he was planning to do for daring to come there alone as a sharpshooter, but Hajin certainly wouldn't answer his confusion. He then immediately fired his gun at them. Seeing that, they then immediately shielded their bodies from his barrage of shots. Seeing that, Hajin then dropped down, and ran around them to find an opening while continuing to shoot at them. While defending themselves from Hajin's barrage of shots, a support then asked the mage about his condition. The mage told him not to worry, this was not a problem. After running for a while, Hajin then arrived at the top of a cliff. He really hit himself well, but still, he felt he should be able to shoot him easily from above. Seeing Hajin on the cliff, the support then told the warrior that he could handle this. Hearing that, the warrior then immediately ran fast towards Hajin. Seeing that, Hajin realized that he planned to defeat him alone, but he didn't feel worried about it at all. In a place filled with obstacles like this, it was impossible for him to keep up, and sure enough, the warrior couldn't even land a single attack on him. Seeing that, the support was annoyed with the warrior. He asked, "Can't you even catch up with him?" He felt that this was really getting annoying. While forming some kind of hand seal, he then concentrated and muttered, "Unite." Right after that, some kind of floating shields then appeared around him. The mage was surprised to see that, not stopping there. The floating shields then moved closer to each other, and united into a sphere. Hajin was surprised to see that, in that moment of distraction, the warrior then rushed forward to attack him again, but his attack was again avoided by Hajin. Hajin then looked towards the shields that were now united to form the ball, although the shields looked like an impregnable fortress now, but Hajin did not feel worried at all. No matter how many they were, shields were just shields. With his sharp eyes, he could see it clearly, the weak point. Right after Hajin fired his gun, a scream then sounded from inside the shields. Hearing that, Yohei then anxiously immediately turned his head towards the sound of the scream. Feeling that the buff magic that had enveloped him earlier was gone, Yohei then frantically tried to call out to the mage, but he got no answer at all, because the mage had passed out at this time. Right after that, an announcement was then heard: Yohei team mage, Yu Suhwan, was disqualified. Yohei was then surprised to hear that. While looking at the mage, Hajin then thought, he wouldn't have lost in one shot if he had a barrier covering his body. His mistake was trying to save mana. After waking up from their shock, Yohei's team members then called him a coward. Hajin was a little speechless hearing that. He then said, "Come on, who are you calling a coward? This is just a strategy." After that, Rachel and Hozung then returned to attack Yohei, but different from before. Yohei looked overwhelmed in blocking their attacks now. He also felt his mana being drained so quickly. After a while, Yohei then could only wait for their next attack with a trembling body. He felt he was finished now. He had run out of energy. Not only Yohei, his other teammates were also struggling now. The sharpshooter was frightened when she saw Tomer bombarding her with magic. As for the warrior and the support, they were still playing chase with Hajin at this time. They couldn't do anything to him at all. Thus, the result of the first team battle, won by Rachel's team with a unanimous victory. After finishing their practical exam, they then gathered and chatted together. They seemed to be in a good mood at the moment. Rachel then came over and happily praised their good work. Seeing her, then also praised her good work. Seeing the big smile on Rachel's face, Hajin felt that she seemed to be in a good mood now. Her voice and hand movements were different from usual. Rachel then turned to him, and said, "Especially you, Hajin, we managed to win because you defeated their mage." Hajin was a little embarrassed to hear that. Apologizing, he said that it was a decision he made on his own, but they didn't seem to mind it at all. While putting his arm around his shoulders, Hozung then said to him, "If you had failed, you'd be a troll, but since you succeeded, you're a hero." Bakyu also said that he was really surprised earlier. He said that he would get the mage's head. He thought he was Guan Yu before. After chatting for a while, they then left respectively. After hearing the praise from his teammates, Hajin wondered, did I work too hard earlier? But, just as Hajin was about to walk away from there, Nayun suddenly called him from behind. She said that Soho told her to tell him that he had fought well. Hajin was then confused to hear Soho told Nayun to do such a thing. Nayun confirmed it. His team had just started the match at this time. Regarding the match earlier, Nayun then asked him, "When you fired your gun, the bullet turned right, how did you do that?" Hearing that, Hajin only replied that this was his talent. Nayun pouted hearing that was a boring explanation. While yawning boredly, Nayun said that she wanted to fight immediately, but unfortunately her match was still later in the afternoon and evening. Hearing that, Hajin only answered half-heartedly. While Hajin was looking around, he then saw someone nearby, more precisely, two people. They were Yu Yona and Shin Jonghak, but Shin Jonghak's mood seemed to be bad at the moment. He was not happy to see him talking to Nayun. His gaze seemed to want to kill him at the moment. Seeing his gaze, Hajin confusedly thought, was he acting in a thriller movie or what? Not only Hajin, Nayun also saw the two of them. She then called Jonghak, and confusedly asked him, "Why are you staring at us?" Hearing that, Shin Jonghak's mood immediately changed 180 degrees. He then smiled broadly at her, with a fawning tone like a dog. Jonghak said that he was staring at anyone. Seeing that, Hajin felt that Jonghak really had strange tastes, not caring about him anymore. Hajin then asked Yona, "Are you on your way to your match?" Yona confirmed it. Her team was next. Hearing that, Hajin then whispered to her, 5.56mm bullets, about 600 rounds. Yona was then shocked to hear that. She then asked him, "Why are you suddenly talking about assault rifle bullets now?" Hajin said that he thought he would need them later. Yona was silent for a moment. Hearing that, she then asked, "You know that magic bullets cost 200,000 won per unit, right?" Hearing that, Hajin just said that 120 million won is not a big deal. "Don't tell me that it is impossible for you. I will be disappointed if you really think so." Yona chuckled at that. "Of course not, don't try to hurt my pride." She then asked him if there was anything else he needed. Hajin replied no. He only needed bullets. He thanked her. Yona then remembered something. She said, "About the ginseng, it looks like the elixir will be ready within 2 weeks." Hajin was surprised to hear that. "Really?" Yona confirmed it, but she suddenly looked a bit hesitant at the moment. Seeing that, Hajin then asked, "Do you want to ask if I still have stock?" Yona cleared her throat embarrassedly. Seeing Hajin knowing her thoughts, she said she thought it would take some time to find another supplier. Hearing that, Hajin then said, "I can't promise I will get it, but, if I manage to get it, let's barter with some of your pharmaceutical company stocks. Do you agree?" Yona happily agreed to that. She then said she would leave it to him then. Meanwhile on the other side, Jonghak was questioning Nayun at this time. He asked, "Why are you being so friendly with someone like him?" Nayun was then confused by his question. Jonghak said, "Don't tell me that you have forgotten, you are the one who said that you don't like him." Nayun immediately panicked. Hearing that, she then immediately said that it was just a misunderstanding. Hearing the conversation between the two of them, Yona then asked Hajin not to take it seriously. Jonghak just didn't know him very well. While waving his hand, Hajin told her not to worry. He said that he had no problem with it at all. Since they had finished talking, he then said he would leave now. To be honest, he was not very happy, but it was just the role given to him. Shin Jonghak was a descendant of the prime minister who served the king in ancient times. He was also the grandson of Shin Myungchul, the great hero who saved South Korea after the outcall happened, so it was only natural that he was proud of his lineage and status. Although, his grandfather, Shin Myungchul, after a while, Hajin then arrived at the dormitory. Just as he opened the door, he then called Evangel. Hearing his call, Evangel then happily immediately ran towards him. Seeing her, Hajin then asked her, "Nothing important happened, right? Are you hungry or?" But, Hajin then was surprised when he looked towards Evangel. Seeing Evangel who was crying, Hajin then confusedly asked, "What happened?"